President Biden has been traveling across America, presumably this past week, on an Investing in America tour, highlighting the tenets of Bidenomics. The president seems to be hoping to draw on the support of the working class and the strength of the economy to aid his nomination for re-election. But both the right and left remain skeptical about Biden's popularity. Let's bring in Yahoo Finance's Rick Newman to dig in on the topic. Rick?
I love that introductory music. It's so chipper.
Dun, 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 dun. Yeah. There we go. So, it seems like the Bidenomics. So there's Bidenomics, your segment that you do, and now there's Bidenomics as the president has actually branded his economic plan. So how's your Bidenomics report card of his Bidenomics plan?
I rate the Biden economy better than most voters seem to rate it. And this, I know we've been talking about this for months, but it's worth repeating that the recession everybody's been expecting simply is not coming. My favorite research note of the week was by economist Bernard Baumol. He sent out a note saying, "Ladies and gentlemen, the recession has been canceled." And that's because look at the data that's coming in this week. We got a big increase in GDP for the first quarter. Jobless claims went down by 26,000. They're back to very low levels. I mean, they're supposed to be going up. We're supposed to see softening in the labor market. That is not happening. Stocks had a great first half of the year. And Biden is going around trying to tell voters that things are pretty good, and nobody really wants to hear it. They just don't really believe it, and that's reflected in Biden's popularity, which is still very low at 40%. I have to think that if the economy stays the way it is and inflation continues to come down, that we are going to see Biden's popularity tick up a little bit, because what's not to like about an economy with an unemployment rate well below 4%, and inflation that's coming back to normal?
So what is not sitting well right now? Because people are going to be having a lot of vacation week discussions next week, trying to figure out exactly where they feel with regard to what's the reality of the economic data that's come through, the spending that's been approved, that's moved through Congress, and that Biden has signed off on as well.
I mean, I don't think ordinary people pay much attention to these big programs Biden has signed.
They don't follow the wires like us?
I don't think so. I think what they might be talking about is how much the chicken or the beer costs this weekend, and if they're buying Bud Light, they might get a discount. We do know that 4th of July barbecues are going to cost a little bit less than they did last year. I think that consumers are shell-shocked by inflation, even though we know the annual inflation rate has now come down from a peak of 9% to 4%. Remember, all those price hikes that we've seen during the last 2 years are still there. It's not that prices have come down. They haven't. It's just that the rate of inflation is a lot lower than it was a year ago. And I think people also have somewhere in the back of their mind that when you have inflation and when you have the Fed hiking interest rates the way it has been doing, that normally produces a recession. That is one of the reasons economists have continually said we think a recession is coming. It's because that's what usually happens. When you have high inflation and the Fed has to hike interest rates, it chokes off borrowing, it chokes off spending, it chokes off hiring. And that's what the Fed's trying to do, is slow down the economy. And when you do it this fast or this aggressively, normally you do get a recession. I think that's why economists have been saying we still think a recession is coming. And I think that's getting through to voters. Maybe it's different this time. Maybe we are actually going to have, economists are starting to rethink their models and say maybe we can have a really strong labor market with the inflation coming down, and we're not going to have a recession.
I mean, and it's very hard to sort of time exactly when this is going to hit, especially in an election year on top of that. Do you think there's going to be enough time between what happens with early 2024 and recession fears and election time for Biden to really be able to make a strong push here? I mean,
that's the most obvious question. And I think everybody wishes they knew, but nobody does. I mean, if you go back to this time last year, we are supposed to be in a recession right now, and clearly we are not. Oxford Economics, I just saw, they said, well, we still think a recession is coming, but we're pushing it out. Instead of starting in the third quarter, which is 2 days from now, is the third quarter. We think it's going to start in the fourth quarter of 2024. Maybe it'll start of 23. Maybe it'll start in 2024. That would be bad timing for Biden. So it's good for him that the economy is staying strong now. Of course, if all this means is that we're just delaying a recession into 2024, that's bad, because the condition of the economy in the first half of an election year it matters quite a lot for an incumbent president's reelection odds.